So welcome back to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I am your host, Christina, and tonight I am very excited because I have two amazing women in the cryptid field, and they're in two different countries. So this is like the ultimate, right, international episode ever, and I'm so excited. So I have Lisa and Juliet from Cryptid Women's Society. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and Lisa is in New Zealand.
New Zealand's the capital city of New Zealand.
Oh my gosh. Is it just like, so do you guys just like run around and pretend that you're like in Lord of the Rings all day? Because that's what I would do if I lived in New Zealand.
Yeah, all day. Pretty much. Sometimes we dress up as all
hobbits running around.
Run around as a hobbit, put some hairy feet on. Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Right.
I know that's not what New Zealand's like, but every time I think of it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just
totally is. It is. Everyone was in Lord of the Rings. Everyone.
I know.
All of New Zealand.
All of New Zealand. And Australia too. I mean, you guys, I don't know. I'm so excited about this because not only do you guys have like wild cryptid stories, but you have like actual amazing animals and things that like I will never see except in a sad zoo. So like, I love that.
Yeah, we're very lucky here. Where we are in Melbourne, like we see kangaroos. The kids have got kangaroos outside this school. We see kangaroos every day. That side of it, we're very, very lucky. But we also have to put up with the creepy crawlies and bits and pieces. So,
oh yeah,
giant spiders, the size of your head, like.
Yeah. No, thank you.
No, thank you. Well, in New Zealand, we're totally safe. So we walk around with bare feet. We don't wear shoes often. You can walk into the bush with no shoes on. You can go down to the beach, not a problem. Nothing will eat you here.
That's amazing.
That's it. Yeah.
And
you must feel like so grounded. I would love to just be barefoot all the time. I hate wearing shoes. It's got to be the best feeling.
Yeah, it's just something that we take for granted, and then you go to another country and you're like, I have to wear shoes.
I know.
Such a drag.
I know. I got to put shoes on today. Oh, gross. I know. I'd be feeling stuck in my shoes.
We do get all the crazy Aussies here that will run around in bare feet. My son is one of them. But yeah, you wouldn't catch me dead. Like, he's a surfer as well, so he'll, they'll run down to the beach.
Oh, nice.
And it's crazy because the last time I was up there, he's in Byron Bay, and the last time we were walking back from being at the beach, 10 minutes later, all his mates came back. We're like, oh my God, you guys just walked straight past a brown snake. It was curled up on the pathway, and I'm just like, everyone's in bare feet. I'm just like, no.
No. Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, too many creepy crawlies.
No.
Okay, so what I like to do before, so I want to hear all about the Cryptid Women's Society. I don't know which one of you wants to kind of start off, but if you could tell our audience, I found you guys on Instagram and I just fell in love with your content. You guys have such a great just presence, and it seems really needed, I think, right now. So if you want to just share with like my audience the heart behind it and how you got started, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, we God, I don't know how many years ago now, Lisa. Well, Lisa and I have been friends for over 20 years now, isn't it? We met at drama school, caused a lot of chaos there, and have continually kind of caused chaos since. We've been around. I was kind of, we were both kind of like really into like paranormal and strange stuff. We lived together for quite a long time, and we lived in a haunted house. So we call it the Nile House, Wellington, and it was extremely haunted. So many people that came into that house had encounters. We had encounters. We had our regular ghost. One we named George, because he was actually, turns out he's a hat man, which we didn't know about. We only learned about hat man probably 2 years ago, maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we didn't really know that kind of what he was actually called. So we had George the Hat Man in the house. Everybody saw George. It just got to the point where we were like, oh my God, okay, George, but you know, you'd actually tell him off for giving you a prize.
So you really got to know him.
We got to know him intimately sometimes, unfortunately.
Get out of the shower with me, George. This is my shower.
Oh my gosh. That's terrorizing. It's not good.
And you knew he was in there and you just, George, get up. You know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So then Lisa and I have always wanted to have a business together. And it's just never really panned out. We're both very, very entrepreneurial. We've both had our own businesses through the years. And we always wanted to work on something together, and we just really couldn't really kind of find that one thing that we wanted to do. COVID hit. I basically lost my job and stuff. I was working with engineers and like everything kind of went under. So I started like a little online store selling like Bigfoot t-shirts, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
So it was kind of fun. But then Lisa and I basically, just after many wines and chatting, and we're just like, this is kind of really cool. We really kind of want to build this. And so it just kind of stemmed from there. Go, Lisa, you tell her some.
Lisa's turn.
Oh gosh, stress. Yeah, it was real interesting because Juliet and I have always had paranormal encounters, and we've got all these stories and stuff. And together, neither of us really knew that when we first met each other and we started, you know, at drama school and acting professionally and that sort of stuff. But we knew that we were like connected in a former life. Like we always knew that there was like our energy was entwined somehow. You know, you meet those people that you're like, met you before somewhere. We're gonna cause some chaos here. So that's what we did. And we've helped raise each other's children and kind of growing our families together. And, you know, Juliet's traveled massively around the world, and I've done a fair amount as well. And it was always something that was kind of sitting in the background. We get itchy feet, you know, we're sitting at the arse end of the world, right at the bottom of the earth, just going, need to get to the northern hemisphere, you know, like there's so much more going on up there. And so it's always kind of been sitting in the background. And once COVID hit, man, that, you know, it killed 2 businesses for me sitting in a car park, literally sitting in my car, tears rolling down my face as all the cancellations started coming through. And, you know, Juliet was in the same position where she was kind of, what's happening, you know, 150 engineers in her team and her business, and it all folded. And it was really, really, really tough. And we know there's stories like this all over the world. I know, you know, we had it pretty hard in New Zealand as far as closing the borders, because we're such a little island. There was just nothing all of a sudden. Juliet had it incredibly tough. Like, I think, you know, I say this quite often to people, but you don't really realize until you hear the details around what her and her family had to go through as far as the amount of time they dealt with lockdown, the parameters that were put in place, the lack of connection and anything else that they were allowed to do. It was very, very, very hard situation to be in. And, you know, we're dealing with that fallout still, right? Like, still we're kind of like trying to get over it and stuff, especially from a business perspective. But when Juliet says to me, I've started this online store and I'm selling Bigfoot t-shirts, and I was like, what is going on with you? It's like, for real? I was like, I know you need money, bro, but come on, man. Like,
you're like, you've lost your mind.
Yeah, because you have these supernatural like encounters and stuff, but we never named George the Hat Man. We didn't know that that's what he was. We never named any of the other things. It was just, obviously there's some sort of an opening in this house, and it was a highway, and stuff just kept coming on through, and before that as well, and, you know, every other kind of year that we were on this earth going, why am I flying? Why am I in a different place now? Why are there time slips? Like, all sorts of weird stuff going on. And and so then when you share, it's really, really odd. Like when you start kind of going back into it, you're like, oh yeah, that was really weird now that I know what that was.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Is that what started getting you into like the research? Was your own experiences, would you think, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think, we, like Lisa and I, again, because we were in different countries, so we would sit there with our glasses of wine at night and we would just talk shit, basically. And just, the stuff that came out of us was horrendous. We'd made a great podcast. I should have just done it. And the ideas and stuff. But, the paranormal stuff and all the encounters and all that kind of stuff just kept kind of coming up. And so it kind of stemmed from there. And we're just like, I wonder if other people have had the same thing. And Lisa and I have always wanted to have a business that supported women. That's always been our goal. It has to support women 100%. And, so we started, talking to other people about, what we were doing and kind of ideas. And, then like we're saying, their experiences, people start telling us their experiences and women. And it's kind of where it kind of came from. It was just suddenly we just suddenly realized there was literally nowhere for these women to go. There was nowhere for them to go into a private area where they could talk about their experiences, because not everybody wants to go onto a podcast and shout it out to the world. There are women there that just wanted to know that they weren't crazy. And that's a horrible thing to say, because that's how they felt. They felt, am I crazy? I've just had a UFO experience. I saw a UFO. I saw a Bigfoot. I have seen demons. I have seen this, but nobody believes me. And I just think that I'm going crazy. And it's a place where women can come and talk about their experiences and know that other women have had the same experiences or similar experiences. And it's a way for them to kind of understand it more and to know that they're not alone. And that was kind of like the gist behind it. It was just, we wanted this supportive kind of place for them. And then it just grew.
That's awesome.
And we're just like,
How many members would you say you guys have?
Sorry?
How many people do you think are like kind of part of this society? Do you have numbers?
We have a couple of different levels, but then we also have our extended network that feed into the society with all of the research and bits and pieces that are going on. So we're probably, I don't know, like a couple of thousand now with the people that are kind of, following and helping, and then integral parts of it as well. And strangely enough, like a lot of our members and our followers come from the States, and we weren't expecting that at all. We were kind of like, it'll be local, New Zealand and Australians. And then we were like, oh, okay. But to your point, Juliet, talking about, we're called the Cryptid Women's Society, but as we started kind of getting into this, we realized that there was crossovers into all of these different areas. And we were like, we have to take that into account. You can't simply do cryptids or cryptozoology without looking at paranormal, and then that takes you into ufology, and then that takes you into cosmic connections and ancient societies and civilizations. And so we developed this thing called the Cosmic Framework, which literally takes you through 5 different sections and shows it in a Venn diagram as how they cross over and connect with each other. And it was something we thought, okay, we've got to lay that out first, because we were trying to figure it out in our minds as well. How does this all work? Like, it's so huge.
It's taken a couple of years. It's taken a couple of years to kind of really get it together, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess, like, when you have an encounter, like, be it a UFO or an extraterrestrial encounter, there's always some form of like a supernatural or a paranormal connection, or potentially like another world or an ancient society connection, or, all these sort of other crossover points that have to be recorded. And more so, we were like, how the hell do you record this stuff and, create some sort of a database from it or categorize it? And so we thought, okay, if we start with this, then we can build out from that. And that's literally what's happened, Jules?
Yeah, and it's just kind of growing, like talking to women and kind of asking them, what do you want? What do you want within this? So we've got, we've got everything from, we're starting up our own university where women can come in and be like, hey, I'm really interested in doing paranormal investigations or research, but I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, this is it. We want this to be readily available for our members and for people and for women. It's coming from a woman's point of view. Men go into investigations and research differently to how women do. And we realize, the number one thing that came out of it, there's a huge safety aspect. Women 100% think about safety first. We have to. And it's not from cryptids, it's not from ghosts, it's not from this, it's from other people. And that's like another kind of area that we're working on, is how to keep yourself safe if you're doing an investigation, if you're going into the bush. But it's not just from other people, but in general, how to keep yourself safe spiritually. And so it's just opened up like this can of worms, and it's just growing and growing and growing.
I love that. That's kind of what I think that I'm doing over here, because as I was doing, as my friend Crystal, I started this with my best friend, and we were seeing all of the same overlap. We're seeing like, well, this person has a UFO encounter, but then there's also Bigfoot in the area. And as I was doing research, it was funny. I was sitting in the office here with my husband, and I was doing research in an area that had a lot of different types of encounters. And I said, I wish that there was a database, because there's all kinds of websites that just do like UFOs or Bigfoot and all that. And my husband is a web developer, and he was like, oh, I could create that for you. And so that's how like the website started, which I've done nothing with, but like, it's just an encounter map that tracks different encounters, all kinds of encounters, because then the same sort of thing is, I can feel not alone, because, hey, I was in Ohio and I live here, and somebody down the street had the same encounter, because it makes you feel crazy when you feel alone in some of these things. So I love that. I love that you're building this. It's fun to just kind of have a foundation and not really know where it's going to go, and then just let it take off. Like, I love that you guys have done that so well too, really.
Thank you. It's been really crazy, because normally, like, we've run businesses before, and you never run it like this. Oh my God, there's structure. Like, there's a plan, and there's a 5-year plan, and there's structure. This, we kind of went, alrighty, off we go.
Where's it going to take us? I love it.
Where we're going. And it's the first time in both of our lives, because we're super, I don't know if you want to use the word control freak, but control freak about our lives, like we're in
type A. You're type A. Type A personality.
Apex predator. But like, we are very strong in where we choose to go and how we choose to do it, and that's what's gotten us all over the world, and amazing stories, and great situations to be in, where we can actually do this. And Juliet's doing this full time now, which is phenomenal, and I'm so jealous.
Awesome.
I said to her the other day, yeah, Karma, you have to do all the social media. And then I went, damn it, I want to do all of that. That's not Karma at all.
It wasn't intended, I might add. We got the company that I was working for was made redundant. So this is the second time I've been made redundant. So I'm just like, okay, there's somebody telling me something.
That's awesome. I know. It just kind of has all really fell into place for you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
It's a lot of hard work. Yeah, absolutely. There's a shitload of hard work behind it, but there's also the right women have literally just stepped into the society and gone, we're helping. We're a part of this. We've got amazing scientists and women that have PhDs in all sorts of bits and pieces, zoology and biology and conservation and all of this sort of stuff. And we've got so many guys that are helping to support us as well and push it all forward. And it's just, it's a really, really awesome thing, because that then allows us to do amazing research. It kind of started as this kind of community space where we just come and share and join in. feel like you have a community, but also now we can research together and we can put all of our minds together on one topic, and we can then do an expedition, and then we can go and do A, B, C, and D. And so it's opening the doors up to so many different options, like the publishing company. You write a book, and bring it to us. We'll publish it for you.
I love that.
You know?
That's awesome. That is just so cool.
Ideas floating around. And the dungeon. Can we just say we have a dungeon? It's R18. That's where that interview from last week that you did was gone. And
I was thinking that would be the perfect spot, because we know there are women that will be coming in that don't want to talk about their cult or, other kind of dark stuff or encounters and and abductions and that kind of stuff, and some of them are extremely graphic. So we've done the dungeon. It kind of started for that, but there's also going to be a fun side to the dungeon. So it's an R18 fun side and conversations. So
well, Christina's like, sign me up.
You guys are crazy. So no, I'm kind of stuck back on this research, because now I'm like, you've got my wheels turning. Like, I want to know, do you have, like, is there something, obviously if it's something like kind of underground that you don't want to talk about, or something that's still developing, but is there some research happening that you're really excited about? Like,
oh my God, stop it. Juliet's like, Lisa, stop telling people.
Are you not supposed to tell?
Tell Christina. What kind of question is that? Tell us all your trade secrets.
No.
We've got heaps of things, like lots of little pokers in the fire at the moment.
Okay.
We are about to do something really exciting with a guy called Joe from the Ancient Enigma Files. And if you don't know him,
yes,
we were one of the first shows that he did. I think we were number 2 or something like that.
Nice.
And so we're going back on his show to do something really cool and a nice little collab.
Okay.
Something kind of moving forward on a more regular with him, which is super exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like his show a lot. That's awesome.
Very cool. He is the coolest dude. He is the nicest dude.
Yeah.
And,
he's a beautiful man. Yeah. Really lovely soul person.
Yeah.
He is.
We have a lot of fun
conspiracy weird stuff, but he's got a really, really good heart.
He does, yeah. It definitely comes through in his work for sure. Like, that's awesome. Okay, so don't talk about that. You don't have to talk about
that. We focus in on the South Pacific. So, like, a lot of what we do is Southern Hemisphere sort of stuff. So, lately we've been talking about the Chinese yerin, the yeti, the yowies down in Australia, and the moiho man in New Zealand as far as Bigfoots go. And we do have some really exciting stuff coming up with tracking and recording and bits and pieces like that we certainly can't talk about, but something really, really exciting in that sort of space. So very, very exciting.
Okay. All right, so people are just going to have to keep an eye out on your research then. If you're not going to divulge anything, that's fine.
But lots of exciting things happening. We are trying to plan a trip next year to the States. It's something that's definitely on our cards. We've actually got Lacey, who is our very first founding member over in America. She's off to the Red Ridge Gorge Bigfoot Festival.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And so she is our boots on the ground at the moment. And so she's running a competition, 12 months free membership. So if you see her, go and find that little QR code and get in. But she's doing a whole heap of research for us because we want to come to America next year and we want to go and do some expos and come and meet everyone and do some investigations and all the fun stuff.
That would be awesome. Yeah, you guys have to come here. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, and we're thinking of having like a Cryptid Women's Weekend as well. So basically all the members and stuff can come along and just get people coming in and talking and just basically just everyone catching up, because it's so much fun and we get so much joy out of talking to women from all different industries, whether it's cryptozoology, paranormal, ufology, or just researchers in general. And it's just, to be able to actually sit in a room with everyone would just be absolutely, or out in the forest somewhere around the fire.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be so awesome.
That's more the plan.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. Well, you're going to have to definitely tell me a story then, because I want to hear some of the wild stuff that you guys, I've been following your Instagram stuff, and I know that you're really diving deep into the Yeti, and I just love the idea. Crystal and I did a kind of a wintry episode where we were just like, we want to hear more about Yetis because we never hear anything about them. So
I did that, and I wanted to kind of go down like a different track, because there's so many different parts of the Yeti that you can kind of, everyone can talk about all the encounters and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, those have kind of been done. So I started looking into like the ancient folklore, and it just, did you see, I don't know if you saw the episode, but oh my Lord, the stuff that came out and the stuff that I found out, and there was a lot of stuff that I didn't put on that was quite graphic, and I'm just like, wow, how much worse can it get? But finding out about the female Yetis being a huge part of the folklore, and they seem to be the more aggressive ones. It seems to be the female Yetis that will come down. They're the ones that are always there, ripping off men's heads and running into the village and grabbing a male and shoving him over her shoulder and running up into the hills and having her way with him, and then basically
crazy.
And I'm just like, this is insane. It's like, why haven't these stories been told?
It really is like wild folklore when you get to it. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, but it's kind of all over the area, and they all have the same thing. It's like like the deities, they're seen up there, and again, it's like this female deity. She's a Sasquatch, a Yeti, but she's got a man's head. She's running over the men's head. So, and literally all the depictions of them have them with basically tearing people apart or running around with a man's head.
Oh my gosh.
And they're thousands of years old, and it's. I just found it fascinating. I just thought it was so cool. So I don't want to meet a Yeti.
No, I know.
Well, I was like, if I'm reincarnating, I'm coming back as a female Yeti. 100%. If I'm doing it, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, you're like, I think I'll be safe that way. Just like in my mountain, whatever, like, and just run down into the village.
And it's insane, yeah. And also, like, the week before we did the Chinese year, and they're so close in proximity. And the one thing that we kind of both realized, because when we research topics, we never talk to each other prior. We just go, oh, you go wherever you want to go, and I'll go wherever. And then we just kind of deliver to each other. And it's so interesting because I had no idea about what Juliet was talking about as far as the female Yetis go. But man, like, you're talking thousands of years worth of history and well documented and well preserved history. And you can literally go and see these amazing photographs, all of this sort of well documented like history that's just sitting there waiting to be read. They're very, very clear on what they see and what they saw and, that sort of stuff. And it's always something that we talk about as far as like Indigenous cultures and First Nations people. They say, we don't make up stories. We don't have the Easter Bunny. We don't have, that sort of stuff. We talk about what we saw and what happened. We know the difference between a bear. We know the difference between a camel. Like there's no questions around that. And who are we to sit here saying these people that spent all day on the land, in the bush, up the mountains don't know the difference between a monkey and a Yeti? Are we that ignorant? Yeah. We sit in concrete jungles, in buildings all day, and then question the people that are in the bush all day? Where's the balance? Where's the logic?
Yeah. I definitely, the more I dig into things too, I realize that the ancients weren't as, I think sometimes when we think of ancient cultures, we think, oh, well, they just didn't know, they didn't have the technology, the knowledge. And it's like, I don't think, we think of them as like cave people or whatever. And it's like, No, actually, the ancients knew a lot more than I think we ever give them credit for. A lot of my conspiracy friends and podcasters out there will know what I'm talking about, because there's so many people are just getting into all the ancient stuff. Like, I mean, we can't not, because of the pyramids, everything that's kind of like, we're in this amazing age of disclosure. So we're kind of always looking back to the ancients. And I think you're right, like, to give them credit. And the, First Nations people, Indigenous people, that, they're not just telling folklore stories around the campfire. This is their culture. This is their experience. And this is how they tell it. Like, it's incredible.
It's always done with a grain of truth. That's trying to figure out. You can't turn around and go, oh, these stories about Yeti 1,000 years ago, oh, it was because they were having a bad day and they didn't want to freeze to death.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I find it in like folklore, there's always the cautionary tales, like, for sure, but it's like a little bit more than just, oh, don't go into the woods because there's a creature in there. It's like, no, actually there is a creature in there, and that's why we're telling you this story.
And that's it, because you can tell, like we call it mythology. The difference between mythology and folklore, and then within that folklore you also know there's a difference of something that, is that cautionary tale or is actually based on some kind of, there's a bit of guts around this, there's something going on here. So let's kind of look into that side of it.
I mean, especially with Aboriginal culture, right? Like Juliet's in Australia, and we rely heavily on Aboriginal culture and their stories and their the lore of their land. And it's so interesting, because you're talking 60,000 plus years, like you go and look at the rock art, you're talking 20,000 plus years. That can't be dated. We know from their stories that that's kind of the date range. And it's absolutely insane when you put it into that sort of time frame, because, in New Zealand, the Europeans have only been here for 150 years.
Right.
So not long.
True.
It's phenomenal when you start listening to their stories, the Aboriginal stories or the Polynesian stories of their like cryptids. We're talking about.
I've never heard any. I've never heard of any of those.
Well,
yeah. Do you have a favorite one? Yeah, I've come to the right place.
Oh yeah.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah. I mean, we were the same. Like, we were like, yes, we have like the yowie and stuff here. You know about the yowie and that.
Yeah, we know about the yowie for sure.
But it was just like, oh, what's in our backyard? And when we actually started investigating, it just blew our minds. Like, honestly, there is a lot, and this land here has a lot of trauma. And so there's a lot of paranormal activity as well, and it's, so you've got that, you've got things like your bunyips, they're just, which is kind of like our bunyip is kind of like a hodag.
What's that?
Oh, you don't know what a hodag is? So it's like a okay, so the bunyip is like a swamp creature. So it's in like the billabongs, which is basically a kind of a billabong is like a stagnant area of water. So there's very little flowing water, and creeks and stuff. So there is always kind of warnings that if you go down to the billabongs into the water, you've got to watch out for this bunyip, because it was like this giant, I'm just trying to explain what would it be like. It's like a giant creature with like massive like fangs, almost like a saber-toothed tiger. And and so like the hodag's the same. It's almost like a giant saber-toothed tiger, massive body on them. They live in the swamps, and we actually did a whole episode on like cats, like big cats that were found, with like the saber-toothed tigers around. And we actually made a connection between the bunyip and basically the saber-toothed tigers. So, I mean, that's a whole, different thing to go down. But yeah,
it was amazing though. Like, the connection that we made was that this water cat could stay underwater and hold its breath essentially, and then jump up into the middle of the water and eat people, right, when they're on boats or whatever. And we went, oh my gosh. We wonder if that's the same as the Australian bunyip, which is said to have webbed feet and a tail and kind of look like 5 different types of animals. Yeah, but have these red eyes like giant tomatoes. And we were like, wow, connection.
That's crazy. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Ew, I just can't even imagine that. Ugh. Like, you're just voting.
To us, we think, oh, that's, it's got to be kind of like this big folk tale or, more of a cautionary thing. But when you speak to Aboriginal people, they're like, no, I've seen one. My uncle saw one. My dad saw one. Yeah. They are like, these things are still here, but there is a spiritual aspect to it. So, we kind of go down the side. So you've got your cryptozoology, which is basically your biological animals, which are like, like the thylacine and, possibly a Bigfoot and, this kind of stuff. They are, you think of all the animals that they thought were like cryptids, but have now been found, so there are still kind of lost animals, so cryptozoology. But then there's paracryptozoology, where it has the spiritual aspect around it, where, Bigfoot is seen going into different dimensions. He's seen disappearing into trees. We have yowies here that disappear into cracks in the rocks. It seems like float and that kind of stuff. So there's two sides to kind of like the cryptozoology. So we try and separate the two of them of going, okay, this comes under the cryptid banner. This comes under the paranormal or paracryptozoology. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, you're right. There are definitely, some of the stories I've heard, you just can't deny that there is a supernatural element for sure, or a spiritual connection, where like the big one is with Bigfoot just sort of disappearing, things just disappearing. That's kind of, that just gets right into being interdimensional,
Yeah. The same thing happens with yetis. The same thing happens with yowies. They're also the same. Yetis are known to be like, oh my God, there's a yeti. They see it and then it disappears into the snow. But there's nowhere for it to go. It just disappears. So there's cases like that, same as the yowies here. So it's
the story that we heard recently was of a Bigfoot being absorbed into a tree.
Ooh.
And then the guys watching this Bigfoot absorbed into a tree went up and put their ear on the tree, and they could hear it almost like, imagine like walking down into the root system, and like they could hear bangs and stuff underground that they assumed was kind of part of the tree. And their idea was that it was charging itself up using the energy from the tree, the electromagnetic field and that sort of stuff. Yeah. Really, really
fascinating.
Yeah. We're just like, what?
Really? But then you're also kind of like, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. You justify it. It's not as weird as the story that I heard about Bigfoot stepping into a doorway and then folding the doorway up on itself and disappearing. What? That was weird. Yeah, I was like,
was that like an encounter that someone had? Like someone had seen that? Like obviously, was it?
Yeah, he was a farmer on his farm, and he was looking at the tree line, and he saw this Bigfoot standing there very clearly. And basically, he walked past a couple of trees, and all of a sudden, this doorway opened. He stepped into it, and the doorway folded in like you fold up a $5 bill on itself.
Yeah.
And it folded and just goodbye.
Bye-bye. Just taking my dimension with me.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy, right?
That's wild. Oh my gosh. We so Crystal and I like to go through and we map out different encounters, and there was an encounter that we found, I can't remember the book, but it was like a flat Bigfoot. Like a flat, and we covered it. We like kind of just told the encounter. Yeah, and it like ran with a car, but it was flat.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Or no, it was a Dogman. It was Dogman. It wasn't Bigfoot. I'm sorry. In one of our earlier episodes, it was a Dogman, and it was just this big creature that was flat when they like tried to look at it from different sides, and it was just a flat thing, like 2-dimensional. Creepy.
Wow. So it's almost like that dimension was kind of crossing over, but not quite, not fully or something.
It's like, we're in 3D, and this 4D or this 2D is coming in and showing it as a different reality, different version in our reality. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's it. I'd like to know where that's from, because like I'm researching Dogman here in Australia. There are a lot of Dogman sightings. A lot of Dogman sightings here.
Really?
But there's no Dogmen in Aboriginal lore.
Oh,
in
interesting.
Aboriginal folklore, anything like that. There is a black dog, which they have a name for, but which is just a dog. This is like totally not part of the Australian mythology, Aboriginal mythology. There are hundreds of sightings. We have seen photographs. We have heard encounters. And it's really, really insane. And then we heard a crazy thing, which kind of makes sense in my head, but Joe from Ancient Lignophiles was talking about how the government's talking about how they've spent trillions of dollars on underground trains and fast trains, which connect through all the countries.
Oh, wow.
And so they're saying that Dogman is basically being made, bred, whatever in America, and this is why they're being seen in different countries. They've even been seen in Africa and Egypt, but like Japan, and just really, really random places. So
do you have a date? Like when did those no, okay. All right.
This is what I am trying to uncover, is like when
there's been a lot of modern encounters.
It's more modern.
Okay.
It's more modern. This is like in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a Dogman encounter.
Because I was going to say, if it like started happening around the 40s, like 45, 47, that's when my ears perk up, because a lot of weird stuff started happening. And especially when you get into the government, like, the American government, like it was a lot of weird stuff happening in the 40s for sure. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to know, like, it's really hard trying to pin down when that first, when the first documented case was of seeing a Dogman.
And given like we did an episode on Dogman, we were like, we'll do an episode, it'll be really great. And because we focus on the South Pacific, we're like, we'll find something. Could we find frickin' anything? Nothing, apart from the fact that Hawaii has a god called Ku, which is the dog god.
Okay.
But not seen in physicality, only deity form.
Mythology, yeah.
Oh, okay.
New Zealand has none of that. The Māori people have none of that. The only thing is potentially PNG, Papua New Guinea, where they have shapeshifters. They have what are they called? Shamans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who shapes into a skinwalker type of creature, a witch doctor into a dog or a dog-like form, but not Dogman, not something like that.
Yeah, the Dogman, it's really, really fascinating because it is, some of the accounts that you can kind of come up with and kind of go through don't always seem to be as evil as the Dogman. I feel like the Dogman is definitely a menacing in every account that we've come up with and seen. It's been something that's menacing. It's, and when you talked about like the dog, like the Grimm, they usually hang out in like cemeteries, stuff like that. So it's definitely more of like a supernatural, but I haven't come across one that wasn't like a menacing sort of bad, just really, even the atmosphere around people when they tell the stories, it changes and there's a shift for sure. So I hope we're not creating them somewhere and then shipping them across the countries, because that's not.
It's not very nice.
It's probably not the best idea.
You kind of look at you, that kind of makes sense though. Not that it's coming from America, but the fact that, they're not in the mythology, so they must be being brought in here And then you got to look at as to what purpose.
Right.
But that takes you down a whole different kind of like, you know.
Well, that takes you into dog soldiers, Nazi warfare, Germans, all that sort of stuff that have been trying desperately to engineer super soldiers for ever and ever men, including America and other, you know, top nations around the world. This, you know, deep, you know, black military ops sort of stuff have been trying to engineer super soldiers forever. And we know that mutations and genetic engineering and hybridization is 100% a thing. 100% a thing. We've been funding and all sorts of stuff for years. And so going back 20 odd years, that probably does fit into someone's timeline of, yay, we created a dog soldier. Test them out.
But now we've got the means to transport them as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's terrible. I mean, what an awful.
You know, so there are these, you know, they've always talked about having connections between the countries and stuff. So, you know, if there is the means now to be able to,
you can't go putting them on like an Emirates flight Melbourne.
No. Are you guys? Yeah, right. Like I mean, I would never. Although my dog, my dog is from Canada, so we always joke that like he's not American. He came from Canada, and he's been on a plane, and like we always joke about that. But like, yeah, no, you're not gonna stow away Dogman super soldier. Like, no, it's not right. This is not happening.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, though. When you, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
But I was going to say that'd be funny. It's like there's this kind of thing. You could fly them over, but are they controllable or are they not controllable?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not supposed to I'm not supposed to go to Australia and take a spider and bring it back over here. So no, let's not. I don't want
to ship Dogman.
We can ship Dogman all over the world. Oh my gosh.
Get $10 for the biosecurity, eh?
Yeah.
We don't need to go through quarantine.
I knew it was going to get wild. All right.
Sure, get the fuckers leg up.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? But it kind of brings me to this point though, because when you do that sort of, 6,000 mile view in the sky of areas, and you want to do research and you want to get down to like what's happening in the entire area, what are people encountering? Usually, if there's a military base, there's underground activity, and there's a lot of stuff happening. Now, I mean, again, it's all conspiracy. This is all for entertainment. Just gonna say that, like, this is entertainment purposes only. But everybody in this space eventually gets down to that rabbit trail of what's underground, what's going on underground. So I've never heard that they're being shipped, and that's absolutely wild.
I know. I found this out last week, and it's
wow.
It just like completely blew me away. I'm like, and I'm having this conversation with them, and I'm just like, hang on, I just got to let that sink in. Which is like, oh my God, I'm like, that just makes so much sense,
right?
Because it's like they've just suddenly turned up here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and saying that, what if Dogman wasn't necessarily a biological or a genetically hybrid engineered super soldier? What if he was actually a supernatural spiritual being that was the gatekeeper or Bigfoot's best mate to hold the door open, the interdimensional door? Like you hear that.
Wow.
Dogman and Bigfoot
are quite interesting.
And the theory that we were told by one of our friends who helped us start Cryptid Women's Society in the very get-go, she gave her Dogman encounter in Wellington here. And she said, Dogman is, he's the gatekeeper. He is the dude that holds the dimensions and bits and pieces like that for Bigfoot to travel through. And she was like, this is just how it was. And she told us where Bigfoot were, that we needed to go and talk to them. She was like, you need to go up this mountain range because they're waiting for you.
What?
And so we did. We went and had this little mini half-day expedition up a hill. And we had the most amazing and like kind of long distance encounter with these creatures that were up there, because she told us they're waiting. They're telling me you need to go and see them.
Wow.
And so what if Dogman was spiritual being that, he has to be quite grumpy. People are trying to interdimensionally travel without his sign.
But you go back to Anubis, isn't it? Anubis is, he goes into the underground. Is that just kind of a metaphor for not just death, but, because you have to go through these trials and stuff, and he's the first one. So, again, it's kind of got that guardian kind of feel to it. But, you look through Europe, though, and you've got to kind of start, so if you're looking at Dogman, you have to look at the werewolf mythology.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is such a huge part of it. And people today, there's one, is it in Birmingham or something? There is a werewolf apparently that is seen, like this Dogman that is seen quite a few times, and people see it along this river, and this river goes into like this kind of underground tunnels, and and all this kind of stuff. You have to. It all goes back, as far as I'm concerned. Well, how I feel, I think it goes back to Europe, because that is where your original werewolves and stuff were.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really part of, apart from your skinwalkers and that kind of stuff, and the Native American side of stuff. But when it comes to, again, like the werewolves and Dogman and that kind of stuff, it started in Europe. So you've got to you have to go back to the beginning and like, okay, how is this changed? How is it, is there like this trail where they've ended up in America? Is there, is it a werewolf such a person that can change? And then, they've, everyone went around the world. Everyone left their country, went to another country. We've all basically done that. So it's like, did they just kind of come over? Did they have these gifts, or is it a supernatural thing? Yeah. I mean, there's so many questions, so many, like we say, so many rabbit holes you could go down, and
Well, then you look at like Underworld, and do they just spell it out for us? Do they just say the lichens are a race and the vampires are a race, and this is the way it's always been? Like, there's theories that Hollywood has to spell it out for us and tell us all about it before they do anything, or they have to, like really kind of lay it out for
predictive programming.
100%. So is this is this the Underworld, movies? Lichens versus the bloodsuckers?
There's a really that reminds me, there was a really famous case of a werewolf in Paris or in France. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was like I think it was in the 15th century, where this I can't remember the village off the top of my head, but it was in France, and this creature terrorized this community, and it was well documented as a historical event, and the church got involved, and it did seem more like a skinwalker sort of situation. I don't know how you guys feel, but I've heard that, like, I get uneasy saying that term, because I know a lot of the Native Americans will not even utter that phraseology because of the it will summon them. So I'm always a little cautious myself. I don't know how you guys feel, but I catch myself because we talk about it and people like to talk about it, and then I'm like, I wonder if that's a good idea to talk about or not. Like
that's basically our next month's stuff. It's like Skinwalker Ranch, Skinwalkers Wendigo. It's like we're doing.
Okay. So that's it. That's interesting. The Wendigo. So what's the difference there? Have you come across stories of Wendigos? Because I haven't really done much digging into those.
Yeah, there's a real difference. So the Skinwalkers are basically like they are more spiritual. So they're like the kind of like the witch doctor, the taboo kind of stuff. And then the Wendigo are it's basically based on people that were cannibalistic.
Oh, so, okay.
Horn things, that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
They never had horns on them. They were basically these white, emancipated, like hollow eyes, skinny, white, pale skin. That
pale
had
crawler, anyone? Pale crawler? Pale crawler?
Yeah. So basically they have this hunger for flesh. And a lot of it kind of came through like in the winter time there, like, you know, with the Native Americans and, you know, that kind of stuff. So basically people were starving, and so they became cannibalistic. And you know, there was always those stories, you know, that I grew up with, is that if you start eating people, you go crazy and you want their flesh. You know, we had that as kids.
Sure. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
that
gosh.
was told to us. It was just basically, if you eat a person, then basically you go crazy and you're basically going to turn into like this zombie-like creature. Though we never really used the word zombie when I was younger, but like this creature that wants to eat more people. You know what I mean? So,
oh my gosh.
And it was something to do with your, basically because you're eating your own kind. And yeah, so, I mean, that's just,
but there is psychology around that now, right? Like the Wendigo, I can't remember what quite it's called. Juliet's done the research on that. I don't know if she wants to drop all of her gems yet, but we've got an episode coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
But I know that there is psychology around that where it's scientifically proven that is what happens, and it's a Wendigo-based term. I mean, we don't have Wendigos down in the South Pacific. It's not something that we talk about. However, cannibalism is 100% prevalent down here up until, I don't know, what, 70 years ago?
Yeah, really? I think, was it 1940s or 1920 was the last confirmed cannibalism.
You know, like, so there was a lot of that sort of stuff going on in New Zealand. But also my partner tells me the story about one of the chiefs in Samoa, which is an island in the South Pacific. That's where my partner's from. And he goes, oh, you know, like one of the chiefs, blah, 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 got real pissed off with the guys over in Tonga. And so he went over there and he ate him. Oh my God. And I was like, oh. It's okay. Very, like, just very matter of fact, that's just what happened. And so to this day, Tonga and Samoa, you know, hate each other. They've got this big giant kind of rift, and it's because the Samoan chief went over and ate the Tongan chief because he was being a shithead.
Okay, so there's definitely some bloodshed on that land. So there's probably a lot of activity on that land for sure. Like getting back to the land.
Christina, oh my gosh. So we went to Samoa. I went to Samoa with my family in June. And Juliet and I did an international paranormal investigation, right? We're like, let's test it out. How far can these go, right?
Yeah.
She was in Australia. I was in Samoa, like a good 8-hour flight away from where she was. Let's do it. So we started up our little ghost tubes on our phones. She didn't know where I was standing and I didn't know where she was. We weren't talking to each other than telling the words that were coming through. So she'd send me a text message going, oh, this is what's coming through. This is what's coming through, basically. So that was all we had communications with. And so it turns out like there was a few moments, that were just so crazily connected. You like, you know, sometimes when you're doing paranormal based investigations, you can pull things out and twist them to fit the situation and twist them to create evidence where there isn't any and connection and stuff. But this was just uncanny. Absolutely uncanny. It started coming up with I was standing right on the edge of the ocean in central Apia, which is the mouth of the harbour in their capital city. And it started coming up with Māori words from the fishermen that would come in, and a lot of them died on that space, and it came up with, you know, words that were in a different language that I understood because we've both learned Māori through school. So it was stuff like tangata whenua, which is guardian of the land, kōrero, which is talking and let's have a conversation, and these sort of words that we know that we were like, there's none of that in my library. There's no preset words in there in my library. And then we started having a conversation in regards to, oh gosh, what was it? There was some sort of a intelligent entity coming through, and it started talking about the candle. And I was like, well, I don't have a candle. And Juliet goes, oh my God, there's a candle next to me.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah. And then it brought out my granddaughter's name, Abigail. She walked into the room and it came up and went, Abigail.
But it came up on my one. It came up with Abigail on mine. And I was like, Abigail. And she goes, oh my God, she just entered the room.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you can't make up. Like if you're in two different places, that's absolutely wild. Wow.
And honestly, yeah, and we're really skeptical. Like we are really, really evidence-based. When we go out and do any sort of investigation or anything like that, we are very much like, are we sure? What about that? Could have been da-da-da-da-da. We will run through every single blimmin' option until we have no more on the table, and then we go, it might be.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's the way. I mean, that you have to be that way, especially nowadays, because there's so much just crap on the internet that people are making up. And, you know, I mean, there's at some point we're just not going to be able to tell like what's real and what's not. So you have to really be, I think, as skeptical as possible is like the safest bet for sure, especially with research. You know, you never want to go in and just kind of assume. I know there's some things that I do where it's like, okay, I don't want this to be my own assumption. Where is the research going to take me, and let it unfold as it kind of happens when you're, especially any sort of encounters where it starts with like, I always look at, okay, well, there's a really big high activity area here. What's the bloodshed look like? What's the Native American culture look like? What were there, you know, were they mistreated? What happened here, you know, is usually where I go and start, and then kind of let it unfold. But yeah, you're right. You have to be skeptical.
That's something that we learned, is also looking into the geography and what's under the ground. What type of minerals? Is it a high gold? Is it high, you know, crystal? You know, all that kind of stuff, because it's a conduct. You know, again, water. Water is another one. You know, I can remember watching. It's an American show, like a police show, but it was like the police couldn't deal with the stuff because it was all paranormal stuff, so they brought in a paranormal team. So it went for a couple of seasons, and it basically was what they realized, what the connection was where all these paranormal encounters were, followed this river. So this river was literally
the conductor.
It's a conductor all these energies, you know. And you know, we have that here. Australia is so mineral, so gold rich. It is insane here, and so it's almost like it's kind of held on to that trauma, or it's, you know, and a lot of stuff, you know, from the Aboriginals being slaughtered, you know, same like the Native Americans, same thing has happened here. You know, and then the Chinese workers that came over, you know, it's just it's definitely areas here as well that I've got such a dark history. We definitely need to kind of look into that as well. So
I think it's ignorant of like sitting in the paranormal space of paranormal investigators to just go straight in and not do any research around it, as far as the Indigenous and the First Nations people go, and what does that history on the land look like? Just going straight in and saying, I'm going to talk to A, B, C, and D. It's like doing a Ouija board when you're, you know, 15 years old and not knowing how to close the portal, you know? Like we were joking about it, going, how many Ouija boards have been used, and then like when you're kids, and then you've just run away from it and left it wide open, like, and then like how many around the world, and no wonder we've got so many.
Oh my gosh, you're not kidding, because I mean, I joke about this. I should stop joking about this, because I should probably just go check on these people. But like, I did a lot of like crazy supernatural stuff when I was a teenager, and my whole room, like I just had like, you know, an altar, and we did Ouija boards, and we did all of that stuff. And I'm always joking, like, I wonder if those people are okay. Like, what? I never, you know, God only knows what portal I opened as an idiot teenager. And then you're right, just left it open. Like, not that I have any spiritual authority when I'm 15. I shouldn't be messing around with any of that stuff to begin with. That's my stance, is just don't do it. Like, you don't need to figure out, it's probably not grandma like talking to you, you know, like don't do it. But you're right. Like, people go in uninformed, and they just want that's a big conversation in my space, is, you know, people just want the tickles. They want the good feeling of telling me a ghost story, you know? Yeah.
But they don't want to deal with the other side of that, eh? And you know, like, and then you've got CERN opening portals left, right, and center, and scientists opening stuff, and you know, like from a spiritual warfare perspective, like, you know, if you're any sort of religious person, if you're any sort of spiritually connected person, be it religious or not, you are in the middle of a spiritual warfare, full stop. We know that this is happening. It's been prophesized. It's been written about in numerous texts. And so if you're connected in any sort of way, shape, or form, you are like a giant beacon, bright light, standing in the dark, that everything goes, ooh, there's a light. I'm going to go down and play with it, you know? And it's dangerous. And if you don't know how to protect yourself, I mean, we've been in a couple of hairy situations lately, Jules, that we've just gone, oh, crap. Thank God we had our protection on place, because if we didn't put those protections in place, we could very well be in really dangerous situations.
And generationally too. I mean, those things can attach to your. I always kind of say it like this: you might get away unscathed, and you might not experience spiritual warfare, and thank God. But you don't know what's going on with your kids. You don't know what's going on with your grandchildren, because that becomes a generational door that you've got to seal up. Yeah, you're right. The protection is very important.
That's becoming. More and more I'm hearing more about this, as like the generational stuff and how it's being passed on. And you kind of like go, okay, yeah, you know, my nana used to go and teach in Egypt. You know, she spent years in Egypt. You know, she was like 5 foot nothing, and she went around the world. She just traveled around the world. She taught in Egypt and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, what did you bring home, Nana?
Nana. What did you bring home? I know. Have you guys so speaking of that, I don't know how true this is, and I don't even know if I want to bring it up because I didn't do any research on it, but I'm seeing a whole bunch of reels about the dumb Annabelle doll that someone decided to take on tour.
Yeah, and all the buildings burning down.
Have you seen this?
It's not the real Annabelle doll.
It's not? No. Okay. Everyone's making like, you know, reaction reels and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
from the research that I've done into it, and the very small amount of research I've done into it, the real Annabelle doll is not that, because she is so dangerous. They simply won't take her out of the container that she's in, because she's too dangerous. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's absolutely no way they would take her on tour.
I don't know. That's what I've heard that, and I did zero looking into it. So, guys, don't do your own research. You know that by now if you're listening.
Do your own research.
Do your own research.
I don't believe it's the real one. And I think, like, you know, diving a little bit deeper into that sort of subjects, I think, like, there's so many, like, relics and items and things like that that have been taken and put into private collections, or wherever that they do occult magic with, and other bits and pieces, you know, like if you've got a highly charged magical talisman, if you want to put it like that, then why the hell would you put it in a museum? You know, somebody is going to take that and use it for nefarious purposes, because
yeah,
you know, so like your grandma going to Egypt, Jules, and taking stuff home with her, which, you know, we all did. Okay, we all took a bit of the family. Or did we?
Nana's got a bag of sand. Don't ask where it came from.
Finger in it. Oh, that's the problem. Oh, no.
But, you know, like, what have you taken from somewhere that has some sort of spiritual connection that you should put back and you shouldn't have? And yeah, we see it all the time, you know, like in New Zealand, we have a thing called greenstone, or pounamu is the greenstone that's in the river, and we make necklaces out of it and carve them, and they're beautiful, and they're touchstones, and they hold spiritual energy, and they're really, really powerful as far as like kind of crystals go or rocks go. And, you know, like there's so many stories around that. Like one of my stories was I went to Australia. I had this beautiful triple twist that was carved for my 21st from my best friend at the time. Her grandfather carved it and then blessed it. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was about that big, huge, big triple twist greenstone. And I took it to Australia with me, and I went and lived over there, and it was fine and all goods. And I met an amazing Aboriginal man who was there with his family. He was super tall, He was like a Nephilim. He was like 7 foot. He was just giant. And I sat next to him, and we had a bit of a chat, and he said, when you go to London, I was just on my way to London the next day or whatever, he said, turn it to the back so that it remembers where it's come from, You
that's interesting.
On the airplane, so it holds the memories. And I was like, okay, so I did that, right? I got a bit angry at him afterwards because I was like, God damn it. If I had kept it at the front, it might still be with me. But long story short, went over to London, spent a few months over there, jumped in the car to come home and go to Heathrow Airport, and I had it on my chest, and it slid off.
Really?
It's knotted. Yeah, you knot them like 5 or 6 times or whatever. It slipped off in the car as we were pulling into the car park.
Oh.
I couldn't find it. I was like, can't find it. It's in the car somewhere. The driver was like, don't worry, mate, I'll find it and I'll send it to you. And I was like, okay, I've got to go. And so jumped on the train, flew home. He went through that car. He ripped up the carpet. He went through everything. He sent me pictures of his wife's green jewelry going, is this it?
Oh.
It's in London somewhere.
Totally gone. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wanted to live in London.
It wanted to live in London.
It just wanted to live in London. Oh my gosh.
I think some things are just meant to stay in different places. And maybe I have this idea that I'm going to go back to London one day and I'll pick it up and find it.
And you'll find it in like a thrift store somewhere.
Oh,
yes. There it is. I know. I have like this wooden piece. I always wonder, I don't even know what it is, but I got it from a thrift store for $1 and I get so many compliments on it.
Oh, that's
But it looks like a piece of a tree that's just been like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah.
Like calcified. Cool. So I don't know. I definitely like prayed over it and blessed it. I'm a weirdo like that. Like if I get stuff from a thrift store, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's coming home. Okay. So you're going to stay outside and I'm going to bless you and pray over you before you come into my house.
I tell you what's really funny. Lisa and I did an investigation at a girl's home. Was it the girl's home that we went to? The big building like in
Farnham.
And basically, so we did this investigation there, and we were leaving, and we were just like, just whatever you are. It was literally like we could feel them knocking at the windows, and we're like, no. So we did a little prayer. You stay here. Hashtag.
So hang on, Jules. Hang on. So you got to give some backstory to like the investigation that we actually did. So this place was in a place called Featherston, which is in the Wairarapa in Wellington, New Zealand, right? But this was like a 20-bedroom mansion, had been turned into like a girl's home, had gone through so many different things. And on that land, there were like World War I prisoners of war, all sorts of stuff. Like almost 50 Japanese prisoners of war were gunned down and killed.
Oh my gosh.
A whole heap of mouldy wars went on there as well. Anyway, so we went there after it had shut down and become a private residence. But before that, it was a girls' home. And it was a pretty horrendously kept secret girls' home, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez.
With the native girls and stuff like that.
Yeah. We keep going. Yeah.
So we left and we're basically like, nope, you need to stay here. We can feel you. It's like, no, bye. Stay here. So we're driving. And I don't know, we had to stop or something, didn't we? It was just like, let's pull over. We were doing something. So we pulled over on the side of the road and it was like I took a photo. Like we took a photo kind of through the window and stuff. And number one, there was like this face that was in the window. There was like no doubt about it, There was like this face that was in there. We're just like, oh, I was like, you need to stay here. And we went down the window to say, get out. And in the middle of nowhere, like on this road, was this white manky cat sitting there just like looking at us. And we're like, oh my God. So we got a photograph of this cat. It was like we just stopped there, just like, stop there. Cat didn't try to run away, just kept looking at us. And we're like, this is so creepy.
Like a little guardian cat.
More so, right? So where we stopped was literally in the middle of nowhere. There were no houses because we were about to drive up one of the biggest hills in New Zealand, right? One of the biggest drivable hills in New Zealand. It's like an hour over the hill sort of thing. So we were literally on our way up that hill. So there were no residential houses.
Nothing.
And the worst part about this is we sat there, we were like, open the window, you have to go, you can't be in here. Juliet was like, there's something in here with me. And I was like, yeah, I know, me too. So we opened the window, we're like, you got to get out, go back to the girls' home. We know you're trying to come with us. And there's this cat, and Juliet goes, oh, my granddaughter Abigail will love this. I'm going to take a picture of that. And I'm sitting there going, just fucking put the window out. Anyway, so she takes this picture of this cat. Not a problem, winds the window up. It was like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning or something. We drive over the hill. We get back to where we're staying, right? Go to sleep, not a problem. Get up a few hours later and take Juliet to the airport. We're sitting at the airport in the car waiting, to check in and stuff. And we're like, oh, shit, let's have a look through those photos and the footage that we took last night. I shit you not, Christina. Like, we're looking through the images and I'm like, oh, holy crap, look at that. And it's literally a picture of the cat in the background. Given we had the window down, so we weren't taking a photo through the window.
Right.
It was a picture of the cat with the glary eyes and then a giant, ghostly, poltergeist face in front of it.
Nope.
Oh, we both went, oh my God, what is he doing in there?
Juliet was about to take that cat home for her granddaughter. She was like, she would love this.
I want to play.
No. Oh my God. That was just, we both sat there going, and we'll send you the picture. It's
please do.
Undeniable.
Oh my gosh.
Undeniable. Ooh. Yeah, it was so crazy.
I mean, we've had some, we do kind of have a bit of a laugh. Like we've had a couple of funny kind of situations, but we've also had some pretty scary kind of situations.
Oh, tell a scary one. Do you have one on mind?
Okay. All right. We were in Queensland. We were at the, what's the big cemetery up there?
Called Toowong Cemetery.
It was the Toowong Cemetery. So I've had kids home all week, so my brain's a little bit
no, that's okay.
And we were basically, so we're going around the cemetery. There's all sorts that's supposed to be in there. There's like a hill where apparently you can park your car, but the car will, if you take the handbrake off, the car goes up the hill and not down the hill.
Oh, wow.
So we've got one of those there. Yeah, that's really weird, well known there. There's supposed to be vampires at this cemetery. There's all sorts, it's quite an old cemetery. So we'd gone with a friend and her 14-year-old son. And so we're walking around. So they're not really into it, but they're like, oh, we'll come along for Sepa.
Mm-hmm.
So we're walking around, and this is probably, an hour, 2 hours into the evening, I think. Yeah.
It's a huge cemetery. It's massively old and just acres upon acres of a lot of unmarked graves as well. Yeah. It's very, very old. One of the oldest. Yeah.
So we kind of got to the top of the hill. There's a couple of kind of hairy areas. We had some, we kind of picked up a few voices, but a few conversations. And we got to the top and kind of, Lisa's kind of wandered off that way. And I think Sepa and them are kind of, there's like a road and stuff. And so Sepa and Michelangelo had gone down this way. And I'm just sitting there and all I could see is like this black, they talk about, you see this black kind of, area, and I'm just looking at it going, what is that? And I'm looking at it on top of one of the the grave sites there, and it slowly morphed, and it morphed into this I just it still gives me goosebumps now. It was almost like this demonic type face. It had horns.
Oh my gosh.
And it just literally just lifted up its head and just looked straight at me. And I'm like, oh my God. And next minute, Lisa's going, the voice box is going off, going, oh, monster. It's been saying that there's a monster here. And I'm like, she's like,
You're like, thank you, spirit. I'm looking at it right now.
And I try to keep really calm because I didn't want to freak out Seppa and Michelangelo. And I'm like, Lisa, we need to go. We need to go. And she's like, oh, it's someone's. We need to go.
Oh my God. Oh.
I'm like, walking down. And we're trying to walk through all these bloody grave sites and there's no pathway. I'm like, I don't care. Just keep walking.
And it's crazy, Christina, because Juliet she's the most connected to all the paranormal stuff, right? She sees things all the time and whatever. And so she's always real calm and collected. Like it's me that I'm like, there's a cherry tree touching me. We're a ghost finger, like sort of thing. And she is real calm and collected and just always like, no, I know what I'm doing. And
there's a monster right here.
I have never seen her bolt that fast. She was like, we are fucking out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, you're expecting something to be creepy because you're in a cemetery, but I mean, that's going to happen. Like you're going to have that sort of creep factor, like scare yourself sort of. But I mean, to see a full just demonic apparition is nightmarish.
Oh, see like shadow figures. You're like, but and you go, they're dark, but I mean, it was black, and it's and when it's the first time I've ever understood when somebody told me something was blacker than black.
Yeah,
and because you could see it at night, and it was just like this black thing, and I was so confused. I'm like, what's here? Is there an animal here? What is that? And then to basically have it like lift its head and just like eyeball me, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, we are gone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Christina, you know what the worst part was, right? After we did all that, we were like, okay, we had another walk around, then we decided we would go. And we ended up converging at the same time out this little wee doorway with another tour group, right? We just kind of went in by ourselves and they were on a full tour. And we kind of like merged in. Yeah, we merged into this line of people leaving, and the poor lady that was at the front giving out pamphlets were like, thanks so much for coming. And she goes, once she went, she's like, thanks so much for coming. And she's like, I had a great time. And then I walked down and she was like, oh, thanks so much for coming. I was like, thanks, that was really great. And then our friend behind us, who's Samoan, walked out and she was like, hello. And she was just, what the hell? Like, where did people come from? It was so good.
Oh my gosh.
So funny. But that's not the worst part, right? That's just a funny part that we were all cracking up about. We came out the other end, out this doorway onto the road, and there was a group of like 4 women standing there all talking about the tour that they'd just gone on. And we were like, oh, hey, how you going? They're like, oh, started having a chat. And we're like, oh, cool, we're just going to do a cleansing process. After, especially after what Juliet had been through, we were like, we are cleansing this puppy off.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, and they were like, what's that? And we were like, what do you mean, what's that? And they were like, oh, like, what are you doing? And we were like, well, you do, protection and then cleanse so that nothing comes home with you. And they're like, oh, we haven't done any of that. Yeah. And we're like, oh my goodness. So we all stood there and did like a little kind of thing together and just did a bit of a cleanse and told everything to stay there and all that stuff. And we were like, and so we kind of just did a bit of education, Jules, because these tour groups are taking people in places like that and then just sending them straight home.
And they're sending them straight home. They're not giving them protection going in. They're not, it's like no protection coming out, no getting rid of everything. Not even, hey, here's a pamphlet,
right.
Go do this before you go. It's like, that should be part of it.
Not even a shake
off. You're doing this and you're going into these areas, you have to put up protection, you have to put up walls, and you also have to, cleanse yourself when you come out the other side. Yeah. And it just blew us away, because we haven't really done any ghost tours as such apart from one. So it kind of blew us away that there was nothing done.
Yeah. Were they there specifically for like a ghost tour, or was it? Oh, it was. Okay. Yeah.
It goes through an investigation and going around to all the creepy areas, finding the vampire and stuff. I'm like,
But they had like equipment, right? They had like REM pods and that sort of stuff that they were trying to talk and communicate with spirits. And it was like, man, if you're going to do that, like, it's not just walking around a cemetery at nighttime. You've got equipment that's going to allow you to communicate. Like, you have got to put protection in place.
Absolutely. I mean, I talked to a couple paranormal investigators, and they say it doesn't really matter what your spiritual, beliefs are. It's more so you have to do something, because you're at least on the front end admitting, hey, I'm in this territory. It's not my territory. Kind of like what Lisa was saying, like, we're involved in spiritual warfare, whether we want to believe it or not. So you're right. There is kind of like an accountability. I never really thought about that, because I've been on a couple ghost tours and no one talks about that. No one's just like, they're just like, ooh, this is where the ghosts are. And no one says, like, you should probably really pray before you do this, maybe, or something. Like, do something.
We're part of kind of what, that we're trying to get through to people, and a big part of, with Cryptid Women's Society and doing courses, is a huge part of it is protection, whether it be the spiritual, physical, or whatever. It has to be done.
Yeah.
It's important. Yeah. It's just silly. These people are walking in there and just open. And, the other thing is, like, if you're in the wrong kind of frame of mind, if you're having, if you've got health issues, for women, if it's the wrong time of the month, it's like, you be doing this because they make you more vulnerable. It puts you at higher risk emotionally, spiritually, and physically, for certain things. So it's there's like just trying to kind of put that together for women to kind of understand, and be like, hey, these are the things that you've got to look out for.
It's
not
all just
really bad headspace. There's no way I take care of it.
Yeah.
Like going out into like the wilderness when you're period, like, it's just not
the bears.
And number two, and nobody needs to attract that sort of attention during that time. And
do you guys ever think about putting together your own like pamphlets and just like being like, here's some information, you should probably take this before you go on a ghost tour? Scan the QR code, you'll learn all about it.
Yes. Just the basics, and that's we are putting this stuff together, and we want it to be free for our women. We're not sitting there, we're going to charge women. No, it's like these are just like the most basic safety things, and as far as spiritual safety, it's like we're coming from different angles, whether it be Catholic or spiritual, or just New Age Christian, or whatever, Buddhism. These are how everybody does their own protection. You take out of whatever appeals to you, but just do something.
Yeah.
And
whatever resonates with you, Jules.
Yeah. So
I think that's really smart, because I think you're at least giving them the knowledge before, in general, you're letting people know, hey, this is, like you said, Lisa, it's not just fun and games. It's not just ghost stories, because the ghost stories are people's stories. They're stories of people that lived before us, and something probably bad happened to them. If they're still, if there's we can get into that's a totally different topic. What are ghosts? But if it's a residual energy, it's there for a reason, because something traumatic probably happened. I think trauma really attracts a lot of it too. I think for sure.
And our number one thing is, like, we always go on with a deep respect to that area, whether it's the land or whether it's a cemetery. And we go in, we introduce ourselves, we come here with respect, and we don't go in there trying to write them up. That nothing irritates me more than watching these programs where they go in and they're like, oh, there's an angry ghost here, and come here, mate, come and face on me, come and touch me, come and touch me.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Zach Baggins. Yep, from Ghost Adventures.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I make fun of him at least every episode we talk about ghosts. Like Crystal and I, when we were in high school, we used to watch that all the time. And like there was one episode in particular, he's got like, I'm probably going to get sued at one point because I just constantly rag on him. But I'm just like, bro, you're all broed out in like your 90s club gear and you're going in here. And like, there was one episode where it was apparently like a woman was like hurt and murdered, and he was just like, oh really, you want to go after women, huh? Like the ghost pushed women, come after me, bro. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He gets possessed nearly every program. You're like, oh my god.
Okay, I'm not one for gossip, but seriously, the one guy like on his team, like didn't his wife just try to like murder him, have him murdered? That was like a big thing.
So are they together on the same team?
Yeah, that's the same team. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I feel bad for that guy. Like that's absolutely
horrifying. I don't know anything about that show. We don't get those sort of shows in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's really, really rough. But I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. One of these days.
This like comes up a lot.
I just rag on him all the time. So I'm going to get a letter in the mail in my P.O. box that's just like, stop making fun of whatever. This is America. I will make fun of Zach Baggins. I don't even know I always mispronounce his name because I think of The Hobbit and Baggins. So I don't know if it's Baggins. Bilbo. All right, we just came full circle. We got back to hobbits. Good. Oh my goodness. This has been a blast. I so appreciate you ladies. This is wonderful. I really I love this. Like I just could talk to you guys forever.
Anytime we get to talk about stories and stuff that we love, it's such a privilege, You know, like who gets this is their kind of full-time deal.
I know.
Our one and tell us all your stories.
I will. Yes. I will definitely. Yes, I would love to anytime. So do you have anything else that you guys want to like kind of wrap up and chat about? I want to be appreciative of your time, and we're over an hour here. So was there anything else you wanted to, any tidbits or?
Go, Lisa. She's the one who goes,
well, have I got a deal for you? Well, like we talked about earlier, we have Lacey at expos in America at the moment representing Cryptid Women's Society. So if you find her at her expo this weekend in Kentucky, go and find her and steal her QR code and get yourself into the draw because we're giving away a 12-month membership.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh,
so
this will probably drop in a couple weeks, so it might be the timing might be off. Huh?
But she will be at another expo in a couple of weeks. I think she's going to West Virginia.
She's going to. Oh, really?
Which might be the next one on. So, are you going to?
No, I've got to one of these years. There's the West Virginia Bigfoot Festival is really big, and then there's another like Blurry Con is a big blurry. I don't know if you got blurry creatures. Like I really want to go to that, but I don't know. Like you guys love traveling, and I'm just kind of like, oh, then I gotta do this, and I gotta drive 4 hours. Like I'm not no. So
it's all about traveling in the right way, though, right? We don't drive for hours. We just get on an airplane and fly.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, I'm just lazy, but yeah, no, I know that's happening. So that's awesome. So we need to find who is it again that's there representing?
Lacey.
Yeah. Lacey. Okay. Find Lacey at the conference and scan the QR code. Yes.
Yes.
And I need to become a member. I definitely need to, like, you've sold me. Yes. I want to take my money so I can get all the research.
Sounds awesome. Well, why don't we send you over a few, like kind of trial memberships to give away as well, and then you can give them out to.
Oh, that would be fun. Yes.
It'll be super cool. And we would love to have you come and join us. It's super, super fun.
Yes, I love this.
Oh, look, there's heaps of collabs going on between all the ladies. You know, we've got books going, we've got documentaries. We have got all sorts kind of happening in the background.
One of the things I was going to mention is one of our newest things that we're just about to launch, which I don't know if I can tell you about, but I'm going to do. I do this all the time, and Juliet, stop it. One of the newest things we're going to launch is a new room in the back end in the members website. And it's called, I don't know if it's going to be called this, but we may change the name, but basically it's a research room where essentially all of our members get to jump into this one space together and put in a bucket load of research, all based on one topic. And I think the first topic is going to be urban legends.
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
is going to be so much fun. Hometown legends. And it's going to have interviews and photographs and all sorts of bits and pieces, with a whole heap of women putting in all of this information into one space. Talk about a database and a half.
I know. That's great.
The best part is at the end of that, we get to put together a book or a documentary or an academic journal, or that information will be part of something tangible that can then go out into the wider community. So we are like, finally, we have our funnel going, which is so
that's great. Oh,
I'll let it one.
That's amazing. All right, you heard it first.
You heard it. Yeah.
Yes, exclusive. Now I can call it an exclusive interview. Like,
yes.
We made fun of Zach Baggins. Exclusive.
Exclusively.
I know. See, this is where I get in trouble, because then I have like a bunch of girls on, and then it just becomes a bunch of gossipy girls. See, no.
Oh, that's why we're having dungeon talks.
We come to the dungeon. I think that's where you belong.
I will get in trouble. Gossip is a big problem for me. So I've repented for years of it, and I try to stay away from it because I get blabby. But I have really just enjoyed this time, and I really appreciate you guys being so flexible and awesome. And I just love that this is like such an awesome community that you've built. So you should definitely be proud of yourselves for sure. Yes. So tell everyone how they can find you.
The best way to find us is cryptidwomensociety.com. You can go over there. You can still become a founding member, which gives you all of the perks and lifelong pricing access and all sorts of other bits and pieces. That will change soon. So the best thing to do is get over there quick, smart, and get yourself a nice wee membership. We're really active on Instagram. So that's just at Cryptid Women's Society. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, and we are going to be super, super active on YouTube, where our lives will be and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can find us over on all of the cool social platforms.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. And guys, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, the truth is out there. God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen.